It's another Monday, and you are listening or watching Sinister. It's a show hosted by me, Baugh, where we dive into the depths of female killers. I was somebody that grew up watching Deadly Women and Snapped, and I'm just very interested in the complexities of female killers. So that is what we focus on here. If you're interested, make sure you follow, subscribe, whatever it is. And if you are listening on Apple or Spotify, please rate the podcast 5 stars. I put a lot of work into this. We recently got some new team members, and they are working so hard over here to deliver these stories to you. If you're new, I handpick all of these cases, and I spend days to weeks working with a researcher going through all of the details. So a lot of these I'm very passionate about, and of course, it comes through in my stories. If you don't hate that, I'll see you next Monday on the next Sinister. But for now, Dionne Baugh is textbook irresistible. She was an immigrant from Jamaica, and she has the slightest Jamaican accent. She's very petite, she's very polished, she's very pretty. She also is going to college for finance, she's very smart, and she had a good job as an executive secretary. She worked for MARTA, the Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority. To most guys, Dionne was a total catch. Smart, pretty, able to take care of herself. Now, she was struggling a bit in college, but she figured out a way to make it through. Also, she had a little bit of help from her husband, but he didn't have too much to give her. He did have a good job. He was a pilot with Jamaica Airlines. And this wasn't just a starter marriage. She and her husband, Sean Peter Nelson, they already had a child together. They had met in 1988 in a nightclub in Miami, and they hit it off. One thing that you'll notice about Dionne is she's pretty attracted to prestige. And back in the 80s, because we're in about the mid-90s or so, the 80s and the 90s, being a pilot was hot. It was such a fantastic job. Even now it is, but Pan Am was running a bunch of commercials. To be a flight attendant or to be a pilot then, it was a hot job. So Dionne's in school for finance. She's got a child. She's also married to this pilot. But her husband, Sean, is in and out of town a lot. To be honest, he's rarely home. Pilots have really busy schedules. When they first met, they really hit it off because Dionne was originally from Jamaica, but she had immigrated years later. She was already a naturalized citizen in America. And then Sean was from Montego Bay, but he was living in Miami at the time. That's where they met, where he was getting his pilot's license. And he was immediately smitten by Dionne. Not only could she cook traditional Jamaican food, which they both really bonded over, but also she was very seductive. She had a lot of passion. She had a lot of energy. And basically, to both of them, the sex was great. Within 2 years, they were married. She was pregnant. And they kind of settled into their life. They left Miami and went over to Georgia. And that's kind of where we are now. Now, in the early stages, when they had first moved to Georgia, Sean was still completing the training for his pilot license. And Dionne was also in school. One thing that I thought was really weird, though, was Dionne was always disappointed that he didn't want more. She was always on him about furthering his education and doing more. This is such an interesting detail because I'm like, what is past the pilot? How do we move forward from there? She kind of would get on him about not being super ambitious because she liked the finer things in life. I think that she wanted the status of my husband's a pilot and I'm in finance and da. And she wanted to be looked at like one of the high society people. And so she would really push Sean to get more into business, get more into finance. You have to want more. And at the time, he had barely even finished his pilot's training, and she was already all on top of him. Sean's job took him away from home quite a bit, and Dionne would use this time while he was gone not to take care of their child, but rather to go hunting for men in Atlanta that could possibly give her a nicer lifestyle. One day, in April 1996, she gets an opportunity. Remember I said earlier that Dionne was his assistant, or at this time, secretary? That means that she received any and all mail that came through the door, and usually she would filter through it before she gave it to her boss. Well, one day when she's going through the mail, she sees this extravagant looking invitation. It's an invitation for a party directed to her boss. The invitation says that there's a +1 allowed, it's for a birthday party, invite only. And this is a lavish birthday party being held at the Hilton in Atlanta. Dionne sees the invite and she knows the type of people that she wants to meet, they're gonna be there. This is one of those high society, new rich, just parties that she has to be at. Dionne's priorities were not school, not her husband, not her child. She was looking for more. This is crazy to me. Dionne sees the invitation and she asks her boss, hey, what is this? And her boss says, oh, this is a party for Lance Herndon. He's a tech executive here in Atlanta. And she says, I would love to go. Is there any way that you can get me in? And her boss is like, well, it's invite only. You kind of have to know somebody, but you know what? Let me see what I can do. Dionne's a really pretty woman, and I think her boss kind of felt like, nobody will mind if she's there. They probably, in fact, would welcome it. It's kind of a club environment, and it was a big party. It was Lance Herndon's 41st birthday party. So her boss does her a favor, and he asks another person on staff, hey, did you get that invite to Lance Herndon's party? And the guy said, yeah, but I kind of tossed it because I wasn't planning on going. And her boss bends over backwards for her and says, can you reach back out and re-request the invite? Dionne wants to go, and let's just give her your invite. Like, if you're not going and she can't be your +1, see if she can just take the paper and flash it and get in. And he said, sure, I'll see what I can do. And the employee agreed, sent over a fax, and within a few moments, Dionne Baugh had an invitation to Lance Herndon's 41st birthday extravaganza. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Lance Herndon. Lance was known in the Atlanta scene as the Black Gatsby. He was a multimillionaire who made most of his money in the tech business. He had a company called Access Inc. His company was recognized with revolutionizing the city's 911 program, and he was looking to expand. He was very well versed in computers, and he integrated a lot of technology that basically made everything much more efficient. And he made a lot of money off of this. There were news articles about him. There was magazines. At one point, he was even listed in the America's Top 500 Entrepreneurs, which is honestly a really crazy feat. At one point, President Bill Clinton even gave Lance Herndon recognition as a promising young entrepreneur. Everybody knew who he was. He was so ahead of the curve with technology. He believed in computers, he understood computers, and he took his business very, very seriously. He was even having conversations with Coca-Cola, Delta, anything. His computer technology business was going to blast off. And he was a hard worker. A couple of other really interesting details that I learned about Lance was when he was growing up, he was very, very close with his paternal grandfather. And that side of his family taught him, you get up early in the morning and you get to work. You get started before anybody else. And that's the way that Lance operated. Inside of his bedroom, there were 3 different alarm clocks, and they would all go off in different increments. 3:40 a.m., 3:50 a.m., 4 a.m. And on the third one, Lance was a pretty heavy sleeper. He would wake up and get going. His first active business, because he was kind of a creative, was to go downstairs before his employees got in at 7 or 8 a.m. And what he would do is he would go to a tape recorder and he would have tapes laid out for all 3 of his main employees that were coming in day by day. The office was inside of his house, but the house was kind of blocked off. So nobody went into the house and they kind of stayed in this separate office that was kind of like a basement that had a separate entrance. So he would go down to the facility and he would start to record a message each morning at 4 a.m. for his employees to know what they had to get done that day. So he'd start the recording and say, good morning, Marguerite. This is Lance. Here's what I would like to accomplish today. And he would list off a task or multiple tasks that he wanted people to complete before the end of the day. They had to kind of have all the files prepared, have everything listed off, and they would leave it on their desk at the end. Now, a lot of Lance's employees, they worked there for 3 or 4 years. They were actually pretty happy. They were paid well. They knew what to expect coming into work every day. It was a pretty cushy job, and I think that they they knew they were ahead of the curve with technology. And I mean, his company was huge. He was pretty famous. Also, his mom actually worked for him as well in bookkeeping.